Yes. So what we're going to do, I just show the photo and we can go through it. The Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Okay, the photo you see is the last photo I took, the very last minute, just before Jupiter-Saturn go under the horizon on 20th of December. Some of photo I took with my iPhone, so the quality is not that great, and the summer photo is okay. So I think since like mid of November, when Julian suggests like we all getting together to someone in the waiting room. Okay. Okay, I help. Okay, when Julian suggested we all go together to do this, to do the observation of Saturn Jupiter Saturn conjunction, I'm quite excited. I'm quite happy, but I just like I have to make a photo and because it is not easy to take photo and also make an observation. So I started practice it. This is the first time. I think it was like 1st December. And because I don't have car, I don't drive. If you know me, I don't drive. So every time when I see the good weather, I will pack all the telescope, camera, tripod. So totally something like between 8 kilo to 10 kilo.
That's quite a camera and a telescope.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
God.
And walk down to in Corridon. We have the Lois Park, so I walk down to there.
How far is that from where you live?
I don't know. I walk for 30 minutes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's okay. So, but my very first one was taken from my garden.
Yeah.
I took from my garden. This is on the 11th. We have a really nice weather. So you can see this is the very first photo I took on the this one.
11th of December.
Yeah, yeah, and this only Jupiter I can see. Then very later I can see the Saturn appear. So I don't have time with my telescope on that day. I really unprepared because I wasn't expecting to see, because that weather was so bad that day, and suddenly they have a little bit gap.
You can see how cloudy it is, yeah.
Yes. So I just like really just use my phone and try to do it, and then I have set up a camera very quickly, and I also use, this is my DSLR, so it's much bigger. So I went to grab the DSLR and took the photo on the left-hand side. This one is with the DSLR, and you can see the gap. I will compare it later all together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see the Jupiter is brighter, and if you look carefully, you can see maybe the Saturn shape have a little bit of ring, but not there yet.
Yeah.
And so this is the on the 15th. I tried again because I see the sky, so you can see my telescopes out. Still in my garden, I don't have time go to Lois Park, so I took the telescope out, and I was really lucky to take another photo also from the scope, this one, so you can see the degree on the
getting closer. Yeah,
getting close on the 15th.
And that's in 4 days.
Yeah, in 4 days. So I have compared. Now you can see this is 11th.
And somebody said they're like 450 million miles apart.
They still, yes. And even later you will see, even we think they are conjunct as a one. When you see it with like maybe just like a binocular, you can still see the distance. So this is the 15th. So 4 day after, it is getting a little bit closer. You can see they really getting closer. And later on the 17th, I finally able to walk down to park because it's more beautiful, more more view, and use the telescope. And that day I get whole lot of photo. So you can really see they are getting very, very close. So from 11 to 15, 15 to 17, 2 days after, only 2 days.
Oh gosh, yes.
You can see the two. So with this scope, you can really measure the distance of them. And so this is again, on that day, I have telescope, but they are not close enough. So I have took 2 pictures from each other, and they put together. The amazing thing for Jupiter-Saturn conjunction for astronomer is you really want to see them together in the eyepiece.
Yeah.
Usually you couldn't see them together in the eyepiece. And that's why it's so special on the 20th and 21st. Even today, if you have good weather, you can try it. But this is this is makeup. This is I took one photo of Jupiter and one photo of Saturn. But this is all my photo. This
Isn't that interesting with that ring around it?
Yeah.
Yes, you can see the ring, and I'm also quite new with astrophotograph. So
You're doing well.
So the first photo I took on the, I think 11th, this one.
11th, yeah.
Yeah, this one. I don't know how to attach the DSLR into my telescope.
Right.
And even I took, it's just like a 2 light dot. I was quite disappointed. And then a couple of days after I learned, I just like, when I'm not going out, I just go on the internet to search how to attach them together and how to work out the best photo. Well, there are other people took is far more professional than this. This is just a snapshot.
Well, for an amateur, you're doing really well.
Thank you. And then I think on the 17th also is a new moon.
The quarter moon, yeah.
New moon, that was new moon. Look,
yeah,
that was this one. Very, very beautiful. I think a lot of people took a photo like this. So you can see moon on this side, and here is Jupiter. And if you look carefully, you can see Jupiter's moon right underneath Jupiter. Little light dot. Have a little light dot.
Yeah, how extraordinary.
And then you can see Saturn. Yes. Well, this is just whining. On the 19th, I went out again. That day, I saw the weather. It's like, oh, should be fine. So I walked down to the park on the 19th. And then this is the first photo I took and the last photo I took. Once I set up, strong wind and the rain all come together, and I was like so helpless. I tried to grab like blanket to cover my telescope. I want to protect them from the rain and wind. So like there's only one photo, and I was like, keep finger crossed, because my last chance is 20th, because I know on 21st there's no chance. So on 20th, really lucky that day, really, really good. The weather was so good. So I walk down and I can still see the quarter moon. And this is when first moment I see Jupiter. And when I take the photo, I can see Saturn is very, very dim up there. And when you take it, I just make it larger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Shame we didn't fix it to come down on the 20th, Rod.
Oh, yeah. We should.
Anyhow, thank goodness you took the photographs. So.
Yeah. And then you can see the distance. This is on 20th.
Very close, yeah.
Very, very close. This is from the finding scope. Yeah. And this is the photo when you just like, when you look
from a distance, yeah.
Yeah, on the distance, you can see this. And then if you put it much, much bigger, you can see they still have a little bit distance. I think they are, for the observation, they are 6 arc minutes away. No. So I tell lie.
Several million miles.
Yeah. On 20th is 12 arc minutes. On 12th is 12 arc minutes. On 21st is a 6 arc minute. That's how close they get things like 1223. That was quite close. And then so I use the DSLR with camera, and you can see the Saturn is here.
Isn't that amazing with the ring
yes,
around
when you see the ring, and then when you see they are together in the eyepiece, you just like, wow. Because you can see usually they are not together, and it's like, wow. And you can see Jupiter's moon.
Yes, this is the first one. Just below, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
So I used the Photoshop when I come back. So this is 3 different photo. This is the one you just see. And this is I adjust the aperture and to make, we can see Jupiter's, that ring, not ring, what do you call that, the spot thingy.
Spots, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then this is what I try. I really try to use my iPhone to look into the eyepiece, and that's very difficult. So this is the photo of the Jupiter. I try to see the color, so all the moon disappeared. Then I can have to finally put them together, use the Photoshop to put that color here. And this is my work. So you can see moon, Jupiter, and the Saturn. And this is the photo you just see. So I will compare. Look, this is from 11th, the distance.
Yeah.
And the 15th, and then 17th, and then the 20th.
Gosh, yeah, absolutely.
They are all together. Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah, this is what I'm showing. Let's hope.
Fantastic, Rod.
For that, Rod.
I think that's so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
That is really absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Really, 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 really grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we change screens again now, Julian?
Yeah. We'll go back to where are we then, Robyn?
So I'm now going to introduce my dear friend Sharon Knight. Sharon is a traditional astrologer, and she's chair of the APAI. And I always rely on Sharon if I want to know anything about any kind of traditional astrology. So tonight she's going to tell us about the solstice, the Capricorn Ingress, sun going into Capricorn. And she's going to compare it to the Aries chart. And she knows an awful lot more about traditional astrology than I do. So I thought it was best to bring in the professionals. So really pleased you're here, Sharon. Can you switch on to Sharon? Switch to Sharon, Julian? Julian?
He's done it. He's done it.
Has he? Okay.
There you are. You can see the Capricorn.
All I could see was him. Okay, brilliant. All right. Okay, darling, I'll leave you to it.
Okay, for those of you who haven't come across me before, consider yourself fortunate because there's no outer planets, there's no aspect lines, and it's whole sign houses. So it's going to take you, you're going to keep looking for the outer planets, but trust me, astrology works with just the 7. So traditionally, they would look at the Aries ingress for any event. So whether it's a coronation, an election, whatever, it was the Aries ingress was paramount. And prior to the Aries ingress, they would look at the lunation, whether it's a new or a full moon immediately before the Aries ingress. When the Aries ingress is made up of cardinal signs, which it was this year, you have to look at every quarter. If you have mutable signs, which we've got next Aries ingress, so mutable signs are Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces, then you look at the Aries and the Libra ingress. And if it's fixed signs at the Aries ingress, that one chart stands for the whole year. So this year we have to look at each quarter chart, but you still compare it back to the Aries ingress. And I will show you the Aries ingress in a minute. But first of all, Saturn and Jupiter, obviously, within 8 hours, they actually come together. So Jupiter's just about to get into bed with Saturn completely. And Saturn is in charge of Aquarius, so no Uranus in charge of Aquarius here. And Saturn also rules the 12th house of institutions, spies, secrets. Institutions covers hospitals, prisons, whatever. And then we look at what the actual planets are doing. So we've got Venus, who is in the 11th whole sign house, 10 by quadrant. You know it's 10 by quadrant because she's conjunct the MC. But what I notice is that Venus is at 7 degrees Sagittarius, and at 9 degrees Sagittarius is a fixed star, one of the royal fixed stars, one of the watchers. And that can change quite a lot of things if whatever the planet Venus symbolizes doesn't behave well. So so back here, before I go on to the Aries ingress, so Saturn, as I say, rules the people. So the first house stands for the people, as well as the moon standing for the people. And we can see Saturn also indicates the elderly. So we know here we've got a crisis with institutions, hospitals being full of the elderly. And Mercury, ruler of the 8th, is in the 12th house. There could be issues around the death rate, but it also does also cover animals. Sorry, I wonder what that was.
I think it's an animal. Can somebody turn their mute off?
Actually,
I'm just watching on.
I think it
I
is,
don't
Robyn.
think they can hear me. I'm on
I
mute.
think we might have a Zoom bomber waiting to attack us, right?
Right. Okay. Oh well, I'll just carry on. Anyway.
So be ready, everybody, in case there's someone rude coming on. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Jupiter rules the 2nd house of the people's money, and this is where the people are. They're concerned about their money. Jupiter is turned away in aversion because traditionally you don't have a semi-sextile. So Jupiter's in aversion, so there's going to be issues around money associated with the 12th house of institutions. Well, we know that, you know, there's the country's broke, people are going broke. But Jupiter also rules the 11th house, which is the supporters of Parliament, supporters of the king. But as I say, there's this female planet there, and she might be up to tricks. She might be a little bit wild, this Venus, in the 11th whole sign house. And she has her exaltation in Pisces, and she can see Pisces by a square. So she may be trying to get some money for her procedures, whatever it is she's up to. And I'll leave you to decide who this woman could be.
Have you got any ideas who it might be?
Well, I think who's the strongest woman in that?
Priti Patel.
No.
The strongest woman, the Queen.
Sorry, no. Venus rules the 9th house, and as Scotland is seeking independence.
Oh, so it's that woman in the EU.
Nicola
Sturgeon.
Nicola Sturgeon. Ah.
It could represent Nicola Sturgeon, who may try to cause strife in the event of a no-deal Brexit.
What do you think about Ursula von der Leyen, though, Sharon? Do you think it might be Ursula von der Leyen as well?
Well, it could well be. It shows a powerful woman.
Just Julian, you'll have to mute. You're going to have to mute because there's too much background.
I'm in a quiet room, Robyn.
No, but just do mute all because there's a lot of background noise.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway,
And Sharon, you unmute.
Unmute. There you go. Okay.
Yep.
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 Right. So, as I say, Venus has her exaltation in the money house of the people, in the assets of the people, where the moon's located. The moon rules the 6th house of sickness, but government employees. So this does include nurses, the army, the civil service, and so there's going to be a cost factor here. So that's, and then Mars, of course. Now this Mars is at 23, and on Christmas Eve, he comes to 24 Aries, and he perfects the square to the Aries ingress, Jupiter, Capricorn, and ascendant. So I'll just come out of this chart. I think, sorry, I can't, I think I have to stop share and just get you another chart up.
That's how you have to do it, Sharon. You have to stop the share and then you prepare the screen with the next chart on your computer, and then you come back to share screen on Zoom to do a Zoom. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Aries Ingress Capricorn. Okay. Nearly back, people. No, is it gone? There. Sorry, I couldn't see it. Right. So what we've done, we've got the Aries Ingress on the inner wheel, and we've got the Capricorn Ingress on the outer wheel. So here's the sun for the Aries Ingress. So nothing particular there, but hang on, is that? Oh, sorry, I've got the Aries Ingress 2021, dozy tart I am. Oh. Sing a song to yourselves, just whilst I get this. I mean, really, obviously this is something I love and don't do enough of. That's Washington. I've got every Aries Ingress. Oh, here we are. Right, open. That's better. There. Phew. So, as I was saying, this is the Aries Ingress 2020 and Capricorn Ingress. So you can see we've got Mars and Jupiter were exactly conjoined. The ascendant was 24 and Saturn was at 29. And actually this is one thing to look back at, was when Saturn moved into Aquarius and the events that happened then, which was Barnier came over to England to try and sort out a Brexit deal. And he came back exactly when Saturn was back at 29 Capricorn. You know, it's just wonderful. Anyway, so now we see that we've got Aries squaring these degrees here and the ascendant. So we can expect something to kick off. Remember, Mars is the trigger on the gun. Somebody pulls the trigger. But against that, I think it's Ptolemy or Abu Mashar says, use the malefics as though you were using poison to heal somebody. So malefics can be beneficial, and it could be a way of cutting something that is no longer valuable or viable to our country. If the talks about banking institutions in other countries being slightly unstable, then it could be a good thing that we are cut, our ties are cut with an institution that could take Europe down. I'm not saying it will, not saying that, but are there any questions on this? Can you see what I'm getting at here with the Aries trigger, the Mars trigger?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, it seems to me whenever any of the planets are squared up to that initial conjunction in January, there's been some sort of a momentous event occur. And I think that even when Jupiter went, because it went right back, didn't it? And then when it came back to that 24, I mean, I'd have to look at my diary to see exactly what went on, but I know I noted it with the degrees each time. So I really have to go through the diary of the year really to put it all together. But yeah, even the moon, every time it goes over that particular clump of degrees, there's something going on.
Yeah, and on my website, I have actually written about this, and this was posted, I don't know, before this embargo from France, that there would be transport problems, and I said there could be explosions, or certainly problems with transport, and what else did I put? Yeah, it could be a fall from grace with a well-known personality, financial scandal, problems that are hidden from view with our partners over finances, and yes, there could be a fraud coming to light involving property and assets. And then the next thing, as I say, I haven't gone into the new moon on the 14th, but the next chart to look at is the full moon on the 30th, and that indicates there could be changes to our legal system. You know, it's poetry how the astrology works.
I have got that chart to put up later tonight, so unless you want to show it now.
Yeah, I've got.
I was going to show it along with the UK chart and Boris Johnson's
chart. I won't show that, but then I'll show the 13th of January chart, because that's oh, sorry, that's another interesting chart, the new moon on the 13th of January.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's not come up. Oh, sorry, I've got the wrong, hit the wrong button. Share screen. Yeah, so the new moon chart is the degree again of the Mars Jupiter conjunction. So
there's a resonance, isn't there?
There's a definite resonance. So although I thought that the full moon on the 30th would indicate a complete break with Brussels and subsequent rewriting of our laws, and you're going to show that chart, show how it affects the 9th house of legal matters and the 10th. But today I heard that, I don't know if it is Nicola Sturgeon, but someone is pushing to delay the final break with the EU for another couple of weeks to try and hopefully reach some accord.
Well, you know, with a full moon, it vibrates for 9 months, but the first 3 months, it's quite active, and it can continue to kind of play out with a full moon until you have the 90 days later when the sun squares that full moon. So it could go on for another 12 weeks after the full moon.
Yeah, but the fact that this 23rd degree of Capricorn is once again highlighted. And then earlier I said about Venus on the Capricorn Ingress being at 7, coming up for 9 degrees Sagittarius. On this new moon chart, we have Antares and Aldebaran, because they're opposite each other. They're the two of the royal stars. And according to Robson, he says if Antares is rising, riches and honour, violence, sickness and benefits seldom last. Now, it does depend on the condition of Jupiter. And Jupiter now he's in Aquarius. He's been in his depression. He's been in exile for the last year. But now in Aquarius, in an air sign of which he's triplicity ruler, he's like a sick man rising off his bed. He was at death's door, and now he's gaining strength, and he is the greater benefic, and he does bring hope. And because he's in a good state, and he's coming up to sextile this degree, I think there will, I mean, obviously, you know, the whole world's in turmoil, but I think there's going to be some better news, because when we look back to March, it was lockdown was the Aries Ingress. So this is when the whole world was affected. But as I say, then we had Mars and Jupiter there. So now we've got the two lights, the king and the queen, hopefully going to lift the people up and bring something better for the future. I think we're still looking at lockdown, you know,
Yeah.
right through until March. Anyway, I've probably gone on too much and bored people.
No, you haven't. No, it's fascinating.
But yeah, the full moon
So we need to watch those degrees,
Yeah.
and of course they'll all be hit off in January with all the other smaller planets as well. So there'll be that vibration, won't there?
Yeah, just I won't show you the full moon on the 28th of January, but then Venus is conjunct the rising degree of the Aries ingress. So this is when I think whoever this woman is will play her hand at the end of January. There'd be something there.
Interesting. So, watch this space. Well, you know, Nicola Sturgeon's Mars was at 2 of Leo or 1 of Leo.
Yeah. Is
so
it? No, I didn't.
She's got
know.
Saturn and Jupiter opposite her Mars, so I think she's gunning for a fight anyway.
Yeah. Yes, it's. I mean, you can say, well, yeah, it's absolutely obvious with what we're going through and with Scotland wanting to divorce from us because Scotland wants to stay in the EU. But I certainly think the end of January is going to see something coming to a head that will involve a woman in power. I won't say a powerful woman, but a woman in power.
And of course, you know that Saturn and Jupiter are in square to Boris Johnson's moon. His moon's a 0 or 1 of Scorpio.
Is it? No, I haven't got his chart in my head.
How do you see that Mars in Taurus at almost 3 on the moon's exalted degree? How would you read that?
Well, Mars joys in the 6th house. So Taurus is the 6th sign. He's a ruler of the Earth triplicity. So he's not as badly off as people think he is. And on the moon's degree, it's going to be, again, issues around health and probably to do with the NHS workers. You see, I think there's going to be some sort of financial issue, whether or not it's going to be a scandal coming to light, a banking scandal that involves Europe, but there is going to be something coming out with this Mars here and this new moon here at the end of January.
So we'll have to watch this space, see how it plays out. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that ascendant on Antares?
Yes, yeah.
It can be good and bad, can't it?
Well, as I say, fortunately, Jupiter's in a good place. You see here, you've got Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter. These 3 planets are the triplicity rulers of air, which means they all have a say in what happens. So they're like the ruling party, if you like. And the 3 leaders are all in accord, and they're doing what they can to help each other. But it will be with restrictions. Jupiter will look to expand.
But they are in cadent house.
But they can see the ascendant.
That's true.
This is one of the anomalies, actually, that the 9th and the 3rd are the houses of joy of the sun and the moon. And they're classed as cadent, but both of these houses aspect the ascendant. So it's not always all bad. Life is never all bad, is it?
It depends.
No, it's not. Hey, listen, you're breathing.
It can be, though. Jupiter's on the Mercury-Saturn midpoint. I haven't got Everton in front of me, but I don't.
Yeah, I meant to look it up. Yeah.
I'll go and get my book in a minute.
Yeah.
I'll go and get it while you've got the chart up.
Okay. But are there any questions from anyone on this?
Sharon, when you've got those terms and bounds rulers and the circle around the edge, do you use that in your interpretation for things?
Yes.
And how would that work, say, with that, say, that new moon there at 23 degrees Capricorn? That would be in the terms of Saturn, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's all to do with the earth element, and it's to do with agriculture. It's also to do with shipping, because Saturn rules sailors and shipping.
Right.
I've got Everton.
But
yeah.
the terms and the bounds would be like an agricultural cycle. Is that right?
Well, no, it's more rules and restrictions. So there's going to be more rules and restrictions around agriculture and fishing and
Which
transport.
is very interesting at this moment, you see.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you see? Did you see in the chat box?
No.
In the chat box, Mary Hart has written, Nicola offered all the health workers £500, but I think it was felt not fair, as she'd only thought of salaried ones, not temporary staff.
Oh.
So I don't know what that's all about, but this is what Everton says about Saturn Mercury.
With Jupiter on the midpoint, yeah.
So Mercury, Saturn with Jupiter on the midpoint. Good powers of concentration, philosophical thinking, the application of method, thoroughness, industriousness, success with difficult work, a fortunate separation, a glad farewell, short journeys. That doesn't sound too bad. In the third house of journeys.
And our neighbours. I mean, France is still our neighbour. It's our closest neighbour.
Yeah. Venus, Deborah said, could Venus represent whatever her name is, Ursula?
Well, that's what I don't know.
Yeah.
I say it's a woman in power.
Yeah.
Who is going
well,
to
the only women in power are her and Nicola that I can think of who are strongly in power at this point in time.
And they're both seeking our money.
And they both want our money, yeah.
Don't forget that this divorce is, all right, they're saying it's over fishing, but what they're not mentioning is it's over the divorce cost.
And Mary said, what about Angela Merkel? But I don't think she's kind of, I don't know. I think she's trying her best with all that Cancerian. It's kind of smooth the way so that we have a good relationship.
Well, the thing is, we're one of the biggest importers from Germany.
Yeah, well, what are they doing at the minute with all blocking all the imports? And I mean, Macron, who's got coronavirus, I mean, I don't think he's thinking straight at the minute, because I mean, this is going to have a knock-on effect on their side of the channel as well, really. But somebody asked what book I'm looking at. The Combination of Stellar Influences by Reinhold Eberton. Absolutely fantastic book to look at the combination of planetary aspects. If it's, you know, a midpoint between two different planets, it's really, really spot on quite often. Well, I think that was really, really interesting, Sharon. And I think we might have to come back to this chart, to tell you the truth, as things go on. Maybe we can discuss it again, maybe in the 3rd or 4th week of January, and see how it's playing out. What do you think?
Well, I mean, if people aren't shell-shocked by traditional astrology.
Well, I'm sure they're not. I think we've got the people we've got here today. We've got 37. We've got somebody from California, someone from India, someone from Israel. We've got people from everywhere. all interested in every kind of astrology. So, you know, we're all astrologers. Any kind of astrology is going to be interesting.
Yeah,
fascinating,
that's
really.
true. Yeah, so just to finish up, I had already written about transport problems. Could be more transport problems Christmas Eve with breakdowns, problems, and it ain't over yet.
No, I can see that just by looking at the moon charts. It's just mad, yeah. But anyway, thank you so much. At least it's not the sign
I
of
share
Paris
something.
yet.
Yeah. Because you mentioned about agriculture and the transport, and that was very interesting. Remember, in this July, the only comet we can see for 21st century in the north. Yeah, this is I think the only comet we can see in the north hemisphere for the 21st century, the very first time. Because the last time was 2007, a comet Magna, and we only see that, in the south hemisphere. And this one we can see is in the time we say it. Also, we say is the ecliptic degree is around the Cancer, and the last degree of Gemini, 29 Gemini, and 0 degree of Cancer. But exactly in the sky is in Auriga, the chariot car.
Yes, yeah.
And it is very interesting because then I went back to find the Chinese astrology book. They share the same name it called Auriga, about a car. But in Chinese astrology, this constellation also is about a car. And it was so interesting. They say 5 car.
Weird, isn't it?
They call it a 5 car, and we are wondering what 5 car it is. No, so this is a 5 car for grain, for rice, for all the grain, for all the food. And I was like, oh. And when the news coming out, all the lorry pile up in Cali, I was like, this is the car.
This is what was predicted. Yeah.
Yeah. And
well, let's have a look at the chart for. I'm going to share my screen now because can you enable me, please, Julian?
Yep.
Are you doing it?
Yep.
Are
you there?
Yeah. Okay. So, Julian, do you want to talk about this first quarter moon, which was yesterday? I'll put the chart up. Okay, I've put the chart up. Can you see it?
Double click before you share screen, Robyn. Double click in Solarfire and get the chart up fully, then share screen.
Okay. Is that all right?
Correct, that's it.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So this is the first quarter moon from yesterday. Now, rather than do daily charts, I find it gives me more information if I do the chart for the week. So if it's a full moon week, a new moon week, or whatever, for those who don't use the moon the way I do, I'll always look at the moon for the week. So this is the first quarter moon, which really describes the issues that we've got going on during this week. So yeah, I mean, I'll leave you to explain it, Julian.
Robyn.
Yeah.
I'll do share screen then, and I'll put this chart up.
Well, can you just do it from the screen that you've got, or not?
Because I want to do. I want to do a combination chart just to overlay.
Well, I can do the bi-wheels and things, but I wanted to just point out that a couple of things I've got in this chart. For instance, I never use the asteroids. I really never bother to use the asteroids, but I'm now realizing that this Eris, which is conjunct Mars and which is squaring Pluto all at 23 degrees, is what is causing all this major disruption at the minute.
There's quite a famous disruptor, actually, who we could trace all this back to, Robyn. And there's a certain sun sign in Aries with Eris conjunct, happens to be Nigel Farage, who also has Mars in Aries, and which is widely conjunct the Eris. He's actually got a little stellium of Sun, Eris, and Mars in Aries, and he's been surfacing the last couple of days on TV and things, making some noise as he does, and it's interesting that it coincides with the Mars reaching Eris. So mythologically or symbolically speaking, Nigel Farage is the Eris of the UK, because he has brought the discord and the disruption and the chaos, and yet he then stepped back like a catalyst. He said, "Here we go," and then stepped back and left us to left the mess, left the party, as it were, and that is now the fruition of all that. Is Mars, after its retrograde, now makes the conjunction to Eris squaring Pluto, and everything gets clogged up because it's exactly as was predicted. You know, what they called, Project Fear was the reality of the situation. And so, I'm not being pro-politic to anybody, but I'm pointing out the fact that Nigel Farage has that stellium that makes exactly what he did. He was a rabble rouser and
maybe that's his role in life, to create discord and chaos, and then everyone has to clear up the mess.
He's always I don't know. Do you want to part of his thing? But interesting enough, with the Eris, this disruptor thing, Boris Johnson's a disruptor as well, right? In the same kind of way. His personality is such that he delays and delays, procrastinates, and then has a knee-jerk reaction to do something, which is often clearly seeming at the moment to be the wrong direction.
Yeah, he procrastinates and then he goes into a panic mode.
And actually that is kind of like a sort of disruptive influence.
Mm.
And look what he was doing as he disrupted everybody. When Theresa May was the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson was the disruptor all the time. He was the one shouting and creating all the problems for more than 2 years, whilst Theresa May was in office. So it's quite interesting, that sort of disruptor kind of character, or archetype. It seems to be showing quite strongly in politicians' charts, maybe at the moment.
Yeah.
That's actually a very good point. Do the people you're speaking of have any out of bounds planets in there? Very good point.
Maybe we need to see where. Maybe we need to see
where. Is a Virgo ascendant, but I'm not absolutely certain. I believe he has a Virgo ascendant, and so we could possibly look at his chart.
I think we have a lot of other charts to get through first, Jules.
Yes. So.
Let me just, but while I'm on the screen, let me just take this down and, I'm just... I
will bring my charts up, Robyn. I've got one or two to show, just some things to chat about.
Well, we've got a lot to get through. What I want to show is the full moon lined up with the 1801 and Boris Johnson. And I really want to show the Uluru Sacred Ceremony chart.
Okay, have you got that on your screen then?
I've got it now. Let me show it first.
Sharing, and then bring up that solar fire chart, then start sharing again.
Now I've got a lot of asteroids in this chart because this is what I don't know if any of you know about the history of the Uluru Uluru Aborigines. The Uluru is that great big red rock in the middle of Australia, in the Northern Territory of Australia. And they have always, they've always communicated, what's the word, mentally with each other. I mean, they communicate with the tribes around Australia. Oh, what is the word? I can't think of it. You know, when they just send messages with their mind. And they say that they are in a relationship with the star people in the Pleiades and other galaxies. And they were told to do a ceremony at this time yesterday, and I joined in with the CIA yesterday morning at 7 o'clock with Olga Morales and all the CIA people. I don't know if any of you know that group of Australians, but they weren't at Uluru, but they were involved with people who were in Uluru, Aborigine chieftains and what have you. And they had been told to do a ceremony at this time. And if you look at this chart is set for the coordinates there in Uluru. So we've got an ascendant at 0 Cancer with the Sun at 0 Capricorn, conjunct the Mercury at 0 Capricorn. We have got the Jupiter and Saturn at 0 Aquarius, conjunct Pallas Athene, not to be confused with Pallas, because Pallas is a male asteroid and Pallas Athene is a female goddess. And Pallas Athene is exactly sextile in Chiron. And then we've got Mars and Eris at 23, exactly squaring Pluto. We've got Black Lilith and Uranus exactly conjunct at 6 degrees. We've got Neptune at 18 degrees, opposite Vesta at 18 degrees. And what else have we got? And the nodes, of course, are forming a grand cross with Neptune and Vesta is the handle. So I've been reading up about these asteroids because I don't use them. I don't really know them. But when I was watching this presentation yesterday, and apparently the Aboriginal astrologers use all these asteroids all the time, and you'll notice that most of these asteroids are female. They're female goddesses, because their belief is that we are now entering an era where women are going to play a major role in the running of the world. And that is why everything in the world is going to change. And Vesta's the handle of this chart. And she's the one who stays at home and stokes the fire and welcomes everyone back home. So Vesta plays a very important role in the management of what's going on in the outside world. Everybody goes back to home, back to Vesta, gets nurtured, and then goes back out and carries out their duties, etc. So Eris and Mars squaring Pluto create discord and strife in order to change the status quo. Then we have Ceres at 8 of Pisces. She's exactly square Venus at, or just almost exactly square Venus at 7 of Sag. She's the goddess of agriculture. And according to them, that is why we have to make a huge amount of effort with the agriculture. Venus actually is the exalted ruler of the 9th house, and she's also the ruler of the 11th. Then we've got Pallas Athene conjunct Jupiter and Saturn sextile Chiron. and squaring the Sun and Mercury, and she's all about wisdom, learning, and scholarship. And then we've got Black Lilith, who is very vulnerable, apparently. So we've got Black Lilith conjunct Uranus, so I'm not really sure how you would read that at all. But I just thought when I saw the chart and I listened to their stories, that it was quite incredible how all these asteroids lined up and linked together in this particular chart, and how they actually decided on this moment. And when they were asked why they were going to do this sacred ceremony at this particular point in time, they said that this was the message that they got from the star people in the Pleiades. So there's an awful lot, I think, that we don't know about that's going to start coming to light. So I just thought it was a very, very interesting chart. I mean, what do you all think? Everyone's gone completely. Well, I know you're all muted, but I just thought it was a very interesting chart. So
absolutely fascinating how they've all lined up, as you say, Robyn.
I mean, how's that possible? You know, I mean, all almost at the same degrees. And of course, the moon was there at 23 Pisces in the morning, but of course, by the afternoon, the moon would have got to 27 of Pisces, which is that's the moon's exalted degree. And by the end of the day, it would have been on the midheaven, or it would have been on the cusp of the 10th house. But even to get the ascendant lining up, I mean, the fact that this is such a sacred area, and by using the coordinates for that area, the fact that the ascendant actually lined up with the ingress, I thought was quite extraordinary. Really.
Is at 23 Capricorn?
Sorry?
Pluto's going to stir everything up at 23 Capricorn.
I know. So yeah, absolutely.
The moon, Mars, and Aries. My goodness me. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen a chart like that. I thought it was, and I don't use asteroids, but all of a sudden, I thought, oh, maybe I need to pop an asteroid in here and there, and that's why when we were talking this afternoon, I said to Julian, put Eris in the chart because it's exactly conjunct Mars, exactly squaring the Pluto, and creating all this disruption that's going on at the minute. And I think in the UK chart, all of this falls in the 8th house about resources and money and what have you. So
I've actually just seen quite an interesting chart with a very Eris that I'd never noticed before, and I just want to show everybody that actually, Robyn. So
what's that? What chart is that?
I'll show you it if you just let me, because I like to do a little reveal because it's actually quite interesting.
Okay, all right. Well, you take me to. I'll take this down.
So you stop sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So I don't know if you can see this or not. Hang on a minute. Right. So just a chart. We were just talking about Eris being the disruptor and the chaos, and I'd never actually noticed it before because I didn't until today, until this afternoon, chatting to Robyn. I hadn't put Eris in charts before, and so it's a new thing. But here we go. Here's our current Prime Minister's chart with Eris. How about that, folks?
Oh, I know it's on his 7th house cusp, isn't it?
Right
I know
on
that.
it. I mean,
yeah, I know that. Yeah.
That's right on it.
Oh my
when
God.
you think about his reputation with how his marriages and various things and what people say about him and how he relates to people, it seems to make quite a lot of sense, doesn't it? And so he is actually here with Eris on bang on his horizon, just going above his horizon like that. He is here to be a disruptor. You know, that's actually what he's here to do.
Yeah, what he does anyway. Yeah.
And I think that's actually quite interesting, you know. So so we'll just leave that with, you know, there's Boris Johnson with Eris on, and it might actually be worth looking at some more Erises in the future, you know.
Well, we'll just keep it in mind. It's something else to watch, isn't it? But of course, Saturn and Jupiter squaring his moon at the minute, so he doesn't know which way to go. He's not feeling very happy. And
Very well, aren't they?
Well, yeah. So he's had the Jupiter Saturn, yeah, squaring his moon, and the moon rules his midheaven.
yeah,
Yeah. So in terms of his professional
Career.
direction, he's probably feeling quite scuppered at the moment.
and with the full moon on the 30th going across the MCIC, and the Saturn Jupiter squaring his moon, I would say if he doesn't pull something out of the bag and work a miracle very quickly, I give him 90 days from the end of the year, when the sun will square that full moon chart. So in 90 days' time, we might be seeing a bid for the new PM.
Right. So let's have a quick look therefore then at the what if we look at the chart that you are asked. Hang on, Robyn. We'll look at the UK Union chart, or we'll look at after Brexit, January the 1st. No, actually, we want to look at today's chart.
No, just to start with, we do the UK with Boris and the full moon.
Yeah, hang on. I'm just going to do the UK with today, because that's actually what I wanted to talk about, I think. So hang on. So today we've got these lorry jams going on. And this is the Saturn Jupiter conjunction at 0 Aquarius, opposite Jupiter in the 1801 chart. So if Jupiter's the traveler, right, that maybe is like the big lorries, right? Maybe is Jupiter. It's kind of Mercury as well, because it's trade, moving things from across borders. But it brings a quality of Jupiter in, I feel, somehow, you know, the idea of something like a big moving vehicle that travels across country. So, you know, that's the sort of Jupiter thing. And here is Saturn and Jupiter together. And this is the result, is the roads are clogged with lorries that can't go anywhere. And Saturn rules putrefying and rotting things like food that's going to go off. And Saturn is also refrigerated. So it's a refrigerated lorries that are running out of energy to keep the food cold. And so this could be very much part of the sort of thing of what we're experiencing at the moment.
Yeah, and Jupiter rules the 3rd house, as Rod's pointed out, and
yes, absolutely. And we've got the South Node coming up.
So the 6th house is the virus. The 3rd house is our journeys. And Jupiter's trying to depend on our friends, but Saturn's opposing it and saying we're not friends.
so you know, this is the challenge. Now, if you look at the in a minute. So then if we look at the after Brexit chart, so this is the chart that's going to be January the 1st, right? And the moon, therefore, this is January the 1st, 2020 at midnight. This is when Brexit happens. And so the moon replaces Jupiter from the 1801 chart. But if the moon is the people and also does represent food, it does actually represent food, then and Saturn and Jupiter are both still opposite the moon, then this could actually be quite a lot of tension around the supply of food.
Well, the moon in Leo wants to have fun, and Saturn is saying, no, you're not having any fun.
Right, but maybe also that Leo it has a great expectation, right? Leo's quite proud, you know, they very fixed. There's a lot of expectation. Leo tends to have, I personally think, that Leo can have quite expectations. So you could say that the nation or the people have an expectation that the supermarkets are always going to be full of food and there's plenty of choice, and it's all looking very palace-like and in, you know, like a kind of Leo would expect to walk into a full supermarket and see everything there. And you know, so when the moon's in Leo, there might be an expectation. Well, of course it's going to be all right, and then maybe though it doesn't turn out all right.
How long does Saturn take to move on? I mean, it's never going to conjunct Jupiter again in this period of time, so that's a good thing. But Jupiter's moving quite fast, because in January it's already got to 6 by the middle of January. Mind you, Saturn's moving quite fast as well. It's at 3 in the middle of January, so it's still quite close.
At the end of January, Jupiter's at 9.
Sorry?
At the end of January, Jupiter's gone up to 9.
Yeah, Jupiter will be at 9 at the end of January. It's still only 4 degrees away from Saturn. Saturn's at 5.
Yeah, actually, it'll be nearly 10. By the 1st of February, it's at 10.
Yeah. Yeah, they're still quite close, but close enough for Saturn to influence Jupiter. But yeah, I think that the reason that we've got Christmas has been cancelled and everything's kind of come to a standstill is because Saturn's there with Jupiter at the minute.
Yeah. Good old Saturn, hum, hum, hum.
But there's a battle going on, isn't there, with that Mars square Pluto and the Eris.
That was the headlines yesterday, because Mars went exact to Pluto. That's actually January the 1st. So hang on. Yesterday. So this is yesterday's chart. And Mars went exactly square to Pluto yesterday, and there were several things, I mean, that happened. So firstly, there was the I mean, Mars in Aries, you know, square Pluto, you can expect something not very pleasant to be approached in the news. And there was the Lockerbie bomber charged, which is a very, you know, after 32 years, that's happened yesterday. At the same time as the manslaughter charges, 3 lorry drivers convicted for in the lorry. That was also Mars square Pluto, right? And you know, that was, so 2 major trials yesterday. And then I noticed in the papers today, there was another one actually in Germany that I just thought was quite interesting. Hang on a sec.
I wonder what happened with the Mars Pluto. I wonder if there was something in that Lockerbie crash with Mars and Pluto.
I did have a look at the Lockerbie crash actually.
There's another.
And Pluto was in Scorpio when it happened 32 years ago. Mars was in Aries, by the way. Mars was in Aries at the Lockerbie on the MC.
Right, okay.
And so I might just hang on.
What were you saying, Julia?
Look at the Lockerbie chart.
Yeah. No, well, I don't know. We've got so many other charts. Julia, what were you saying?
There was the Russian that was poisoned with Novichok.
All right.
The fact that was uncovered by somebody snooping, but an aeroplane. His life would not have been saved if it hadn't been for an aeroplane, because the pilot saw he was ill, and the Novichok was in his underpants. I mean, you don't get much more Pluto than that, do you?
No.
Yeah, right. And that, nice one, Julia, well spotted. And the Financial Times, right, yesterday had this one: synagogue attacker given life jail term, because Pluto in Capricorn is justice oriented. You know, there's quite a lot of court cases, quite a lot to do with justice, a Capricornian thing, you know. And that a right-wing extremist who attacked a synagogue, killing 2 people, was given a life sentence as well. So when Mars squares Pluto, Pluto in Capricorn, the theme being, you know, it's like the angry, frustrated Mars, or the violent Mars gets tension, you know, hit back by the Pluto being in Capricorn, you know. So that's quite, I think, is quite an interesting kind of aspect to look at there, because there's another one.
The other thing that I meant to point out is that the South Node is on our natal Mercury, our natal UK Mercury at the minute. So it's really a bad time to be trying to negotiate anything, whether it's to do with roadblocks or Brexit or anything else. I mean, you know, and Boris, of course, can't think straight because he's got Neptune squaring his Mercury.
Oh gosh.
So a bit like when Theresa May was in power and she had Neptune on a Mars, she could never get anything done. So there you go, Scorpio. So it's an inconjunct, the Lockerbie, Mars, Pluto inconjunct, 14 degrees and 15 degrees.
There it is. Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Very interesting, yeah.
That happened then. So yeah. So we could have a quick look at.
Well, why don't you put the full moon chart up for the 30th with the UK chart and Boris Johnson's chart? Make a tri-wheel.
Right. Okay then.
Do you want them? Do you want the coordinates for the full moon?
Yep. Hang on a sec. Yep.
Or did you do it this afternoon?
Please. Hang on. I'll just put
the UK chart and then Boris Johnson's chart. And then the full moon at the end.
That's very close to it. So just right, that'll probably do it. So okay, I'll add that to the calculated chart list. 30th of December.
30th of December at 3.
We'll put the Union chart. Oh, hang on, wait a minute. We'll put the Union chart in
the middle.
The middle. So we've got Union in the middle. Then we've got Boris Johnson in the center and the event chart. Okay.
Yeah. Have you got the moon chart at 3:29 a.m.?
Inner wheel is Union. No, that one. Middle wheel is Boris. And outer wheel is the full moon.
Okay.
There we go.
You'll see that the MCIC lines up in all of them.
Yes, it does.
Sharon? We can't see anything, Jules.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right, hang on. I forgot to do the screen share. There we go. Right. There. So the full moon chart is the outer wheel. All right, coming up on the 30th of December. Hang on a minute.
No, none of this is right, I'm afraid.
It's not right, is it? No.
It's all completely wrong. I don't know what you've got. Everything 22nd of December. I don't know why.
Hang on.
I've got it on my screen if you want. I've got it already set up.
All right, hang on.
Just let me share my screen.
Animate tri-wheel and then no, wait a sec, charts. Clear.
Here, I'll do it.
Okay, so we've got Union, middle wheel.
I'm doing it, Jules.
All right then. No.
Right, can you all see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you see it? Okay, so the inner wheel is the 1801. So we've got the ascendant at 7 Libra and the midheaven at 920. And the full moon you can see is 8:53. So it's the full moon on the midheaven of the UK chart. Sun on the IC, and the middle circle is Boris Johnson, and his midheaven is a couple of degrees further on. So all of the full moon and the two MCICs are lining up completely. So 30th of December, full moon is a make or break situation. But everything will be clear. Everything by that stage will be out in the open. Whether it's going to be out in the open before that, I don't know. Because looking at the chart we've just looked at, the first quarter chart, doesn't indicate that they're making a lot of progress. So it might even go to the wire. It might even go right to the 30th of December before we know what is going to happen as far as Brexit's concerned, whether we're leaving with no deal or whether we've got a deal. I think it'll take us right to almost to that point in time. And then, being a full moon, the story's not finished. So the first crisis point will be when the sun squares the full moon, which will be 90 days after the 30th of December, so the end of March. And I think the next 3 months are going to be quite tricky, really. So if we look at the full moon, let's just change that. If we just look at the full moon for 30th of December. Okay, can you see that? Jules?
Yeah, I can see that. Yep.
Okay, so that's not an easy chart, is it? I mean, okay, you can forget about Vesta, but nevertheless, we've still got the nodes squaring Neptune. We're still confused. We still don't know what's going on. We've still got Venus tied up with the South Node. And that, of course, is sitting on our UK Venus, which rules our chart, by the way, because we've got a Libran ascendant. The Mercury is combust the Sun. Mars and Eris are still square Pluto. So I think that the next 3 months from this time is quite tricky. I think January, February, March is difficult. So, and I don't know how all you think, how you all feel about this endless drama that's going on with coronavirus, but everybody knows that viruses mutate. They constantly mutate. I mean, it's already mutated 35, 36 times. The more they mutate, the weaker they get. They might spread faster, but they won't be as deadly as the first strain that came out of Wuhan. So eventually they mutate and mutate until they eventually die out. In 1918, they had no vaccines. Yes, a lot of people died, but a lot of people lived and survived and went on. And their whole world wasn't destroyed completely. And at the minute, I just think that the cure is almost worse than the complaint, because everybody's losing their jobs, all the businesses are collapsing, all the banks will start collapsing, etc.
This is the economic reset as promised by a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, Robyn.
Sorry?
We had a Saturn-Pluto followed by a Jupiter-Saturn. So, you know, this is the economic reset. The coronavirus is happening. Everybody panicked, you know, tried to take some form of control, which was the nature of 3 outer planets in Capricorn, you know, and Mars in Aries is like, let's get the jab, let's get this thing going.
Let's get this miracle jab and we'll all get better and then life will go back to normal. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the virus is actually mutating. It mutates, or it's kind of announced that it's mutating the day that Saturn goes into Aquarius and Jupiter follows. So it's like, that is a variance. That's a change. You know, it's like a mutation. It's not into mutable, you know, but they change signs. Those two planets change signs, and also in the news yesterday they announced with the Mars-Pluto square that there was now 500,000 people had been vaccinated in the UK. So the Mars-Pluto was also that as well. But now, yeah, it's very interesting that when you say that the virus gets weaker and weaker as it mutates, and that's exactly what's happening.
They're making out that it's getting worse and worse. They're making out that it's more and more and more dangerous, and stay in your houses and do as you're told. And
Because, but you see, that's where people are going to rebel, because now Saturn's in
what upsets me is these scientists know that. The scientists know the truth. I mean, if they've got any kind of education, they know viruses mutate, they get weaker, they spread quicker, but it's like spreading jam. The further you spread it, the thinner it gets. You know, and yeah, it might spread out a bit more, but it's thinner and thinner and thinner. So the virus gets weaker and weaker and weaker.
Yes.
But I mean, you know, I don't understand how half the population can be so caught up in this whole melodrama. But anyway,
you know, I mean, but that is, as we've seen in the astrology, is this the cardinal squares, you know, Mars squaring, you know, Jupiter, Mars squaring Pluto, Mars squaring Saturn. All this thing has created a very melodramatic situation, blown it out of proportion, as Jupiter does. Jupiter blows things out of proportion. So Jupiter conjuncting Pluto, and earlier this year with the Saturn Pluto as well, you know, it was this idea that the government, everything blew out of proportion, you know, right from them government offering contracts to completely unsuitable people for all that safety equipment, the PPE equipment and all that. You know, all that's coming to be exposed as part of.
Oh yeah, well they're all Cummings friends, weren't they?
It was an overly expansive reaction. Everything has been overly expanded because of the nature of Jupiter in Capricorn. You know, and now Jupiter will move on, and people will say, quite naturally so, because Jupiter in Aquarius with Saturn will be actually, this isn't right. We can't be held back anymore. You know, the survival rate of COVID is now, you know, it's already at 98% or 99% anyway. So you know, I mean, it's just like people are just going to be like, the virus mutates, people won't be held indoors. But because of that situation with 3 outer planets in Capricorn, people now look back at that and say, well, this is the way the government has been running us. And therefore, what can we now change in terms of social order and reconstruction? And that's what this Jupiter Saturn is about in Aquarius. We're going to have to move forwards from that. So all the idea of people losing their jobs and everything, the government now, they might not feel they've got to change their policies, but they've got to do something massive rearrangements, you know, massive rearrangements. So it's really, you know, I feel that we're at this very, very interesting sort of, there's a threshold or a turning point, isn't it? Something's going to happen. And then in February, when you've got all those planets lining up in Aquarius.
Yeah, I mean, is it end of January or February when there's 8 or 9 planets in Aquarius?
Yeah.
Must be February.
Going to come through, you know?
Yeah. Well, we'll do that next year. We'll have a look at that next year. But I mean, they're going to be strange little children that are born then.
Yes.
With 9 or 10 planets in Aquarius.
I just want to very quickly show you one person's chart. He might not have a hope in hell of doing anything really effective, but have a look at this chart. This is Keir Starmer. It's a noon chart, right? But I'd just like to draw to your attention this rather interesting planetary planet that he has here. He has Saturn at 5 degrees Aquarius conjunct his south node. And I would like to draw your attention to that because I think that's quite interesting. It trines his Mercury, and his moon is in Libra. We only have a noon chart for him. His moon's in Libra, and his Venus is at 25 of Libra as well. And so he's going to be getting a nice set of Jupiter trines coming across to Libra. He's going to be, then Jupiter goes into Pisces and we'll do something for him there. He'll get a Jupiter return. But his Saturn return, his second Saturn return's coming up. And I think that is pretty interesting. So I just thought I'd leave you that, you know, just put that out there and say, look at that. Because he's the leadership opposition.
Is this a birth? It's not his birth time, is it?
I've only got the noon chart.
All right, so you don't have a birth time.
No, but the location, he was born in Southwark and it's second.
Well, I'm looking for Taurus and Scorpio, because if anyone's going to come into power in the next 2 or 3 years, they'll have Taurus and Scorpio in their chart.
Well, I mean, he could have been born at noon. And
yeah, Rod's just said 5 planets. Where 5 planets? I think there's a lot more, Rod, than that. I think there's going to be something like 9 or 10 planets. I mean, I'll have a look on my phone and see if I can see.
I think it's February the 9th. Is it February the 9th?
No, let me just have a look.
I'll just get it up now. Hang on.
One, two, three, 4, 5.
There we go. That's a nice little selection right there.
Oh, look
So
at that.
On February the 10th, we've got the Moon, Saturn, Venus, Jupiter, Mercury, and the Sun.
Wow.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets. 6 planets in Aquarius on the 10th of February.
And the midheaven.
Yeah.
For an hour or two, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Mars squaring it. Poor person,
Mars
Bill.
squaring.
I wonder who that's going to be.
And interestingly, you know, we could actually add there the fact that the node is trining as well. You know, quite interesting.
Yeah. We've got a lot of interesting charts coming up, that's for sure. Do you want to unmute yourselves? I think that everybody might want to unmute. If you want to speak, please unmute yourself. Anyone? Anyone unmuting? Anyone's?
I was just going to say about the heavy work.
Sorry, Sharon, ask Tommy, do it again, Sharon. I beg your pardon, because I was trying to, I was just doing unmute to all then, and as you started talking, and it did a thing.
Thanks, Jules. No, I was just saying, I put down in the chat box, I thought it was 63 when there was the lineup of planets in Aquarius, but I was put right, it was 62. And it's, I think everything was in Aquarius in 62, including Mars. Because I know I had a client and I scratched my head because all I could talk about.
You brought out everything you knew about Aquarius.
No, about Saturn. Saturn being the dominant planet.
Of course.
But he's at home. He's in what they call good SESSE when he's in Aquarius.
There we go. That's actually what I've just brought up there. Is the new moon chart. So it's 11th of February at just after 7 p.m. pretty much, 7 p.m. So that'll be the new moon chart for us. I mean, it's set for Ho, so that's pretty close to London, I suppose. But there we go. That will be the new moon chart. So Sharon, do you do new moon charts in traditional? Do you sort of look at those?
Oh yeah. Oh, you're instructed to. Absolutely. It's
if I just do, hang on a minute. What I'm going to do is I'll just take out the, I'll take out the outer planets, okay, and I'll reshare. All right. And
no, Jules, do it for everybody else.
That's fine. Everybody can work it out, Julian. Everyone can look. You know, if you look at enough charts, you can look at what you want in the charts. So it doesn't really make any difference.
Right, hang on. Okay, so Sharon, what do you see there, just out of interest, Sharon, using traditional methods?
Nothing at the minute.
Right.
Black screen. There you go.
There we go.
Oh, well, this is interesting because we've got the two benefics conjoined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Venus and Jupiter. So although Venus is 12, no, Venus is in terms. So it actually looks that it's going to be a beneficial time for the NHS workers, for government employees, and possibly for the health. It could be quite a cold time. And I'm looking at it in the whole house.
Oh, I'll do that now. Yeah.
No, leave it, Jules, because I can work it.
Right.
Done it enough years. So looking at it in whole house signs, Jupiter and Venus are in the 6th sign of Aquarius, which relates to the National Health Service, as I've just said, and to the house of sickness. So it does actually offer some hope. As I say, Saturn's the ultimate dispositor over everything, because Mars is the only traditional planet. He's in Venus's sign. Venus is ruled by Jupiter. So there actually could be some brighter news. I mean, I always look for brighter news. And again, we've got this degree of 23. Now, I know traditionally it's not an aspect with the Aries ingress chart, where everything was at 22, 23, 24, Capricorn. But nonetheless, there's this 23rd degree coming up again. And I know with the new and full moon, I know they sort of retain the similar degrees, but it is really interesting. Rod, what's the constellation or the nearest fixed star for 23 Aquarius?
Could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. I think the 23 should be what we call the Aquila? No? Should be around that.
Yeah.
Should be around there. Yes.
I think Delphinus is 16 Aquarius. I know that.
No, I think Aquila is near that degree. Let me check. Alta.
You see, this is the lovely thing about having lots of people who are interested in astrology, because everyone's got something interesting to kind of comment on, because we all have different interests in our astrology.
Oh, Sadasu. Lucky of lucky.
Lucky. What degree is that?
23 Aquarius.
Yeah, 20 is Sadasu. Is the Aquarius shoulder. And the both shoulder is a lucky star. One is lucky of king, and one is lucky of lucky.
And what degree is that, Rod?
23.
Ah.
23.
You see, that's just after, as I say, on the 5th and 6th of February, so the week prior, Venus conjoins Mars conjoins the Venus in the Aries ingress, and Venus conjoins Saturn on the 5th and the 6th at 5 and 6 Aquarius. So I think come early mid-February we are going to have some better news. Yeah. I mean, it's common sense. If we come out of Brexit without a deal, there's going to be months and months and months of hardship. But that's going to be globally anyway because of the COVID. But I do think there is going to be a bright light on the horizon, but it's just
whichever way it goes, the charts are looking hopeful.
But with 6 planets at the new moon in the 6th house in Aquarius, do you think that public sector workers might get a nice bonus?
I think probably, because that a lot of them are threatening to leave because they said they're working such long hours. But they're all
with
just
Virgo ascendant as well. Like it kind of points back to the idea of worker.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Thank you.
Sense of maybe and then the node in Gemini is like having learnt a lesson, maybe having understood something to be different. sort of node in Gemini would be like a different, maybe a change of opinion. So maybe it could be that, you know, I don't know, you know, maybe government might say, oh, actually, you know, we've worked something out. You know, we need to look after these people a bit more.
Well, don't forget, Jupiter is a planet of wealth, money, and charity. It's not Mercury, as people often think it is. Jupiter is the planet of wealth.
Yeah.
But there is one thing, and I might be a bit naughty saying this, but the millions and millions and millions raised by Sir Captain Tom for the NHS workers, have they had it yet?
Yeah, probably not. Good God. Charities, though, I mean, ooh, you know, the way charities are set up is...
But isn't it interesting as well? You see, you've got this movement going on now because Marcus Rashford, with his Aquarius in his chart, and he started this whole thing about children, no children going hungry and so on.
Yeah.
And then Anthony Joshua has started something as well. So all these big sports people are actually starting to now use their celebrity to actually look after the whatever their particular interest is. But I mean, they're all starting to become quite altruistic and think about what they can do for other people. And I think that this will have a knock-on effect because, you know, for too long, celebrities have just got more and more money, bigger and bigger cars, blah, blah, blah. And now it's not the infradig thing anymore. Now it's going to be about what charities you support or, you know, what you're doing for the good of the community, etc.
That last Jupiter-Saturn cycle was in Taurus, which is very materialistic, very consumeristic, you know, and quite, you know, nothing against Tauruses here, but
yeah, I think as it happened in the great mutation between the Earth sign, Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Earth sign and Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Air sign. So this is the last great conjunction in Earth sign. That's a review of materialism and of review of a 200-year. We all really heavily depend on the things, money,
stuff,
and all the stuff. So I think that Taurus, that year 2000 of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Taurus, in one way remind us what we become when we totally depend on that. And then in another way is kind of a review and allowed us to fix a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think in the beginning I was quite naive. I said, well, you know, it's just like turn the page from Earth's element to air element and all changed. I think a lot of people are thinking that way, but I don't think so. It's like a very slowly mutation and slowly step into another element.
And you'll find that the younger generation, their values are going to be so completely different.
Totally. You can see I think millennium, they don't have that kind of a very, you know, earthy environment like born after 80s or the millennium. I think that what they want is like a really air sign, air element orientation. And that was like you would even not understand what they're talking about, and that is very interesting.
I mean, and it's all happening so fast because we always knew with air that everything would move very quickly because with Earth everything was very slow. But with air, everything is moving at such a rate. And within 2 or 3 years, we're going to be living in a completely different world. It's quite extraordinary. It's extraordinary watching it unfold, really.
Yeah.
Could I ask Karen a question?
Yes, of course.
Do you know what the Lord of the Year is for the UK chart?
You're talking to me. Hang on, let's have a look.
You mean the perfected Lord?
Yes.
I don't know how would you work that out, Sharon?
Hang on, I'd have to.
Do you want to see a chart? Do you want to see the UK Union chart?
Yeah, no, you keep talking. I'll go off screen.
It's
And
Let Sharon have a look.
Yeah.
the 1801 chart.
There's the 1801, Sharon.
And also, I've noticed that solar Uranus is coming up towards UK Mars. I think that that's going to be maybe some sort of battle over resources, resources,
sorry,
other people's money.
What did you say? Uranus is coming up to Mars?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we're going to have Saturn Uranus square on that Mars
As well.
Yeah.
Well.
This is a bit.
I don't know what Ebertine says about Uranus and Mars, but it sounds pretty fireworky to me.
Yeah.
I wondered if there might be a problem with pension funds.
Oh, maybe.
Well, as I said earlier, there is going to be some sort of scandal over finances.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in the 8th house in the UK chart, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
Well, we
I
all
know
know
there'll be problems after Brexit because it's other people's resources which we trade with.
There's also, I can tell you, because I know all the degrees of the royal family, there's going to be a lot of issues with the royal family this year. And the Queen's moon is at about 11 degrees of Leo. And I think Duke of Edinburgh is about 11 degrees of Leo as well with his Neptune. But of course, Duke of Edinburgh will probably go this year, I'm sure. But I think there's going to be something coming out with the royal family because the royal family is very Capricorn, and I think that those days are over, really. And much as I like watching the royal family and all their charts, I just don't think they can survive, not in the way they are anyway.
I just have a question because I don't really know about the UK's financial situation with other country. Have we heavily related or depend with the United States?
Are we what?
Heavily dependent on the United States?
No.
Not really.
Okay, thank God. Because, you know, if we see the Sibley chart going to have a Pluto return.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's another topic for me for next year. It's like a huge.
Yeah.
Huge,
I mean, we'll be going through all the American charts, Rod, because I mean, America's got huge dramas coming up.
Yeah, so that's why when we're talking about this, you know, when Mars in the 8th house things and they're going to trigger by Saturn, Uranus, or either the Saturn, Uranus, and the Mars Saturn things. I was like, my first thought was like, oh, is that going to relate it to United States? Because I don't know, but I just like,
I think we're going to find out as the royal family that they've got their money stashed in offshore accounts and all sorts of things. There's a lot of stuff going to come out about it all. Yeah.
I'd like to add that, Julia, you did point out that solar arc Uranus coming to Mars. Here is that solar arc chart with the UK 1801. This actually, I mean, the orb is building up, right? It actually happens in 2025, which is quite interesting because it's building up the unease. I would say Uranus is it's building up that kind of slightly separatist energy, you know, the ability that Uranus can shake things around quite a lot, you know. And I
wonder if, you know, there's like the Lewis pound.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could have a number of different currencies.
Our own local currency.
I was just saying to
nice
Robyn
idea, Julia, but my feeling is that they're going to do everything online so they can watch what money you've got.
Right, but I was talking today about the idea of
that makes sense.
Tiny city-states, almost, you know, where everything, you know, everyone just gets into their own little groups. So it breaks down into counties. And then maybe into towns.
Well, we're already doing that with tiers, aren't we? So it's going to be you stay in your own tier, and you can just see it, can't you? Really?
Yeah. And I also think maybe, I mean, if it really gets extreme about new things, there's the original way of money exchange, the original very Venusian way trading and things and buying and selling things is what developed into auctions. Is like where someone would hold up, like literally they're like, here's a bag of rice. What if, you know, what do you know, that kind of idea of trading.
But Julian, you know, that's already happening in our local area. We have something called Next Door, and there's all these different areas that join it. And then people, every day someone will put in, I've got a load of logs, does anyone want them? Or I've got a TV if you come and collect it, or I'll swap you this if you bring, anyone got this, I'll swap you that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that is already happening in my local area.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
The other thing is that Mars is metals, of course, and there are all these rare earth metals that we all desperately need to keep doing our
The
online
technology,
stuff.
yeah.
And coltan, which is in the Congo, I think there are some eclipses that go through there. I think this is going to be a real problem, and I think there will be wars about it.
Maybe, yeah.
Mm.
That's food for thought. I haven't even thought about that, but with all the technology, they're going to need those special metals, aren't they?
Yes, the Congo already fought one war where coltan was used as currency.
Gosh.
Is
And
an actual metal, Julia?
how do you spell that,
it's
Julia? C-O-L?
It's the ore of oh gosh.
It's lithium.
One of the lanthanides.
Lithium, isn't it? That they require.
What do they require?
It's lithium.
No, they do. They do. That's another. Oh, that's another thing. The batteries.
Yeah, that's from the Belgian Congo. Lithium.
And so is
the
coltan.
World for that.
Indium. Indium's one of the things you need. All of those funny little metals that no one's hardly ever heard of. Yttrium, indium.
How interesting. My gosh.
And it's quite scary. In fact, I did a horary course with a sort of metal billionaire. And he helped me with various ancient techniques. But when I asked him about his metals and Uranus in Taurus, he told me nothing.
Well, he kind of said, "Oh, nothing's happening." Sort of
No.
nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I ain't telling you nothing, kind of thing. Is what you're basically saying there, Julia, right? Like that's where it's happening. But
yeah.
it rings true, doesn't it? Uranus in Taurus would be rare earth metals that power technology, right? It's a fit. The qualities of Uranus in Taurus, it fits perfectly, right?
Yeah.
So actually some astute investment into rare earth minerals might pay off, right?